Hello and welcome to Last Place Fantasy Football Podcast. My name is Ryan. I am here with my co-host Josh. Unfortunately, we're down one tonight.
It
Ethan
got
is
him.
not able to be with us. Rona got him. The good old CV.
I mean,
And
give him
yeah,
credit. He avoided it for 2+ years, and then it finally got
yeah,
to him.
it finally got to him. He's doing well, but yeah, we're
Yeah,
we're without him tonight.
get better, E.
So yeah, get better, E. We'll hopefully have him back for next week's episode with our wide receivers. Um, but for running backs, it's just me and Josh, the dynamic duo. We're going to be going over this is week 2 of our Stat-A-Thon series, which we do every year, just going over all of the stats from this previous year, reviewing them, seeing, just looking at the numbers and seeing what we can see and maybe some predictions of what we can look forward to next year, hopefully. Um, so yeah, that's pretty much what we do. If you tuned into our last podcast on quarterbacks that we dropped last week, you'll kind of know the whole process. But if you didn't, go back, check it out, and continue tuning in to this podcast. We're going to be doing this for the next couple of weeks, going over, like I said, next week, wide receivers. The week after, we're doing what? Tight ends?
Yep, tight ends.
Yeah, tight
And
ends.
then it should hit free agency by that point.
Yep. Yep. And then we'll be talking about free agency. So, week 2, running backs. All right.
We got,
Um,
I will tell you, putting in these
yeah.
stats for the running back position, I'm pretty shocked. This is the one thing I'm really sad that E can't be on this show because he had
Yeah.
a preseason prediction that he hit
Hmm.
nail on the head for. And that was
Okay.
15 running backs going over 250 points for the season.
All right.
In total, 16 running backs hit 250
Hey.
points total. So, E, you deserve a pat on the back. Let's not go there. Pat on the back for getting that prediction correct. But
Yeah. Dang.
I would say from the get go that last year we had a clear number one in Jonathan Taylor, and it was then everyone else. And I would
Yep.
say, without a doubt, I think the running back position was so much better compared to last year.
Yeah, it wasn't so like there, like you said, there was one and then everybody else. There was some front runners throughout the year, but some surged more than others in certain times, like near the end of the year, CMC just like took off. When he got traded,
Yeah,
he
it
started
was,
doing really well. So,
and even Eckler,
yeah.
when after whatever happened in the beginning of the year, and then kind of just taking the reins from there. So Ryan, I actually kind of want to do something a little bit different. We didn't do this with quarterbacks, so I think with running backs we could definitely do this. So
All right.
we're gonna play a game called Would You Rather, and I'm gonna give you uh two players consistency grade and their average points per game, and I want you to tell me which one you go with.
Okay.
So
Okay. Wait. Okay. All right. All right.
I'm going to give you
Go
two
ahead.
players. I'm going to give you their average points per game and their consistency grade, and then
Okay.
you're going to pick which one you would rather have.
Okay. Go ahead. Shoot.
Alrighty, so let's start with this. Average points per game for player A is 24.74 points with a
Okay.
consistency grade of 94 versus 24.83 points per game for player B with a consistency grade of 88. Now, who would you pick?
I mean, I'd pick the 94 consistency grade
Well, you,
because I
sir,
just,
have chosen very quickly RB2 over RB1.
yeah. Well, I mean, hey, I like consistency over
Yeah.
anything
Well,
else.
yeah, so that was the one thing I was surprised about. It was Austin Eckler's lowest point total game this year was 10 points. So even at his worst, didn't necessarily kill you. But with McCaffrey, I definitely think the trade definitely probably impacted these numbers. But they were,
Oh, for sure.
it's a 2 point difference between both of them. And honestly, I would even go as to say it's really 1A, 1B at the top of that rather than a one and a two.
Yeah, I'd say so. I'd say so. And looking at this, we have a surprising number three that
Yes,
could with more receiving work have easily been number one. Very easily been number one.
easily. And I'm pretty sure
He
he
is,
led the
yeah. He
team,
led this
led actually the league in
the
rushing.
league. Yeah. So our number three is Josh Jacobs. You know,
Uh,
he's only what, eight points from number one.
yeah, he's 8 points from the number one spot. So
That's
like,
crazy.
yeah, three running backs over 400 is pretty ridiculous to be honest with you, and RB4 being very close to that number as well. But he
Yeah.
averaged 24.37 points with our consistency grade of 100. He literally, for the most part, did enough to make you think he was going to hit 24 points every time
Yeah.
this season, which I
Yeah.
find to be absurd. And
Now we have to take into account our consistency rating. It does not mean just because he got a 100 doesn't mean he hit 24 fantasy points 100% of the time. This is counting, with our math is a little funky, but we rated him including that 60-point game, almost a 61-point game.
yeah,
So, he got quite a consistency boost from that because if you had him in your lineup for that game, it was almost impossible to lose that game, no matter
yeah.
what.
Yeah,
So
no, and if you lost that game,
then you have a
there,
crappy team.
yeah, you're the rest of your team stinks.
Yeah. Then you
But
might as
actually,
well just put Josh Jacobs up and on a
sure,
pedestal because he was your champion.
yeah. In the words of Melvin Gordon, I got carried, baby. Oh,
Yeah. Yeah,
but
really.
let's talk. Actually, I want to give up. Let's go with another running back comparison here. I think this one's going to be interesting. Player A fantasy points per game was 19.34 a game with a consistency score of 80 versus player B with 17 points per game on average with a consistency grade of 107. Now, Ryan, who would you take?
See, I'm a consistency grade guy. So I would prefer I'd prefer consistency, but it also, if they're injured for multiple games, then they're completely useless for those games. So how many games did they play all 17?
Let's see. Player A played 15 and player B also played 15.
Interesting. Hmm. Then I would go consistency. I would go consistency over that.
So,
So
alrighty. So you have chosen player A over, no, you've chosen player B over player A. Player A is actually running back 11 for the
yep.
season, and player B is running back 16 on the season. So you've actually chosen Kenneth Walker over Joe Mixon.
See, but they were only 26 points total
Only
points
26 points
away from
apart,
each other.
but I want to bring this up. Kenneth Walker didn't start the year as the starter.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I personally, for me, even though there is a 5 spot difference, I love having this consistency grade because to
Yeah.
me, this shows, hey, I'm looking more at Kenneth Walker, even though he was RB16.
Hmm.
And I mean, I think like what the consistency grade shows is like, hey, he was always around that number. Now, whether
Yep.
he hit it or not, that's a different chance. That's a different like estimation. But I mean, I'm looking at some of the like this. points here, and while Joe Mixon did have the highest point total of any running back this season at one point,
He also
which was
struggled though.
yeah, he struggled mightily. I think that since the offense struggled mightily too.
Yeah.
I think as they really struggled trying to figure out how to balance everything, how teams are going to play them differently.
Hmm.
But overall, like I think the two comparisons I gave you here is how close the running back groups were this year. So I mean, let's go through all of them. We've already talked about a few of them. So in our RB1 tier, you have Christian McCaffrey, Austin Eckler, Josh Jacobs, One King Derrick Henry, Nick Chubb, Saquon Barkley, Tony Pollard, Dalvin Cook, Aaron Jones, Ramondre, Joe Mixon, and Jamal Williams. So out of that RB tier list, I think you and I will both agree on which one who we expect to drop off the list.
Yeah.
Um, and I think his name starts with J, ends in W. But I do want to talk about another person on this list, and actually a person you said to be careful of during the NFL season, and
Yep.
that is one Nicholas Chubb.
Well, I predicted it when their quarterback came back. What's his name? Oh my gosh.
Deshaun
Why?
Watson.
Deshaun Watson. Sorry guys. I'm sick. I've got fever brain. Um, when Deshaun Watson came back, I predicted that Nick Chubb would kind of drop off. And I think from now on, honestly, I think he's going to struggle because they're
Yep.
not going to be solely a running offense. Now they're
Hmm.
still going to lean on Nick Chubb a lot, but I don't think they're going to do it as much and with the efficiency that they used to. So, from weeks 13 through 17, he struggled to get 17 points.
Yeah,
And for Nick
massively
Chubb,
struggled.
that's hard. And I mean, even then, like after week 8, after their bye week, he only surpassed 17 points once, and that was to get 27 points. So, he did great at the beginning of the season, but as soon as Deshaun Watson came in, he struggled. Now
And
he's still, I think he's still in the running back 2 area, even a low end running back 1. But I don't think he's going to have a top 10 performance.
yeah, no, I think he may sneak in RB12 next year, but I don't know top 10 running back again. And the only reason why I say that too is just because I do think Deshaun Watson and Nicholas Chubb both kind of ruin each other's momentum
Yeah.
and their rhythm almost because now you can go both ways. And so I think it does throw it a bit off there. Now,
Hmm.
the question I will ask, if you didn't know who player A or player B was, would you choose a 76% consistency grade at 21 points a game over a 107 consistency grade at 17 points a game? Because I think that's the big question there.
Yeah. I see, but that's hard because he's only hitting 21 76% of the time. So about 24% of the time, he's not even going to get that number.
Yeah.
When I can count at least on 17 points from Kenneth Walker.
I definitely think that consistency, especially when you go into the RB2 tier, is what's
Yeah,
so important. But I also think this consistency grade is also giving us a key indicator on who to look for next year for the top 5 running back category.
for real, for real.
So I mean, I want to talk about actually two running backs that I was really shocked about when going through these. Um, Dalvin Cook is one of them, and on top of that, Derrick Henry is the other one. I don't expect either of them to be up here by next year. And the reason why, well, Derrick Henry just we just learned news from Tennessee that they
Hmm.
have released both Robert Woods and Taylor Lewan, the left tackle. And then Dalvin Cook, is Dalvin Cook getting phased out? Do you think
Mm, I
as the
don't,
resident
I don't
Vikings
know.
fan, is
I
that even
don't know.
possible?
Oh, I think it's 100% possible. In fact, there is a lot of push from Vikings fans. Like a lot of Vikings pages are saying let him go. Like just let him go, pick up a running back in the draft. We still have Ty Chandler. If we choose to re-sign Madison, we re-sign Madison. I mean, he's pretty much a discount Dalvin Cook. And yet Dalvin Cook did a lot this year, but we didn't rely on him as much as we did in previous seasons because of JJ, that whole JJ Cousins connection there, and now getting Hawkinson and all of that. So honestly, Dalvin Cook could be phased out of this offense, and he could, by the end of this offseason, be on another team potentially. But I just don't know if they're willing to give him up for the price that people will, or that other teams will pay for
Yeah,
or want to pay.
I just want to think which team will trade for a running back this year because the draft class is so good.
Yeah,
Like that's my big question.
I do not know.
I can see the Rams maybe trying to run it back, but I can see them excuse me there. I can see them going after Madison over Cook because of the cap number.
And he's younger, doesn't have as
Yeah.
much mileage on him, but he's a proven back. So I could see it. I could see them going after Madison. Um, I don't know. I wouldn't be as a Vikings fan. I love Cook. I love what he's been able to do for the Vikings over the last couple of years with the team. But I don't think he's worth having around anymore. We still have to pay JJ. We we
Yeah,
need
and
to
that's
sign
going to
him this
be
year,
yeah.
and it's going to be a big contract. So, you know, I think priorities are JJ because he is a generational talent. We need to sign him.
I would
And our defense is so bad
I mean
that we
they
need to
got
we need to
Flores,
free
so
up. Yeah.
and I think the pieces do fit a little bit better, but you best believe like secondary is going to get
Yeah.
looked at as
And
far as
we're
help goes.
we're needing to clean a little house here.
Oh,
Um,
is the cap that bad?
yeah. I think it's like
Nice.
24 mil over this year. And I think I think we're at least gonna need to get rid of. I know Dalvin Tomlinson is not coming back. I know Patrick Peterson. They could still re-sign them, but they've voided their contracts.
Okay, so most likely
So
they won't.
yeah. So
And
At least Patrick Peterson and Dalvin Tomlinson have had voided contracts over the last week or two, I think.
which makes sense. I think I don't know. I don't know about Dalvin Cook. I think I'm just really surprised because honestly, how we talked about it during the season, he straight up disappeared at times, and
Oh
then
yeah.
middle of the season exploded, which kind of explains the consistency score being so high because he did have some pretty elite games.
Yeah.
Part of
I'm
me thinks
surprised.
yeah, I'm
Oh,
very
sorry, go
surprised at
ahead.
Dalvin Cook's numbers because I thought he'd be
Well,
RB2 category.
exactly. I thought he would be in the late teens, maybe early teens, but for him being RB8, I'm actually surprised. So,
Yeah, and I would say as of right now, I can see Dalvin Cook staying. And the only
yeah.
reason why is because if there's anything the Vikings struggled with last year, it was having a counterpunch. And I think
Yeah.
you would want someone who's in the offense and not have messed up continuity or chemistry
Yeah.
to figure out what the counterpunch is and just kind of help uh KOC a little bit. Um
Would you be surprised? Sorry, speaking of running backs, and I brought this up in our little group chat before. Would you be surprised? Like completely jaw-dropping, like shocked if the Vikings pick up Bijan.
no, not at all. Actually, and there's another running back here I want to talk about
Mhm.
that might get Bijan first.
Okay. Okay.
And so I'll tease that in a little bit. Um, I mean, th- Ramondre Stevenson at RB10 is kind of surprising, even though he completely crushed your soul at the end of the year. But I
Don't
think that's
even
all. I
remind
think
me.
that's part of it because the Patriots just never had the passing game to really kind of match up with it. Jamal Williams, he is my biggest please avoid next year at all costs, just because I don't think you'll see 17 touchdowns again.
No,
Though, but great season from him. Um, let's go into the RB2 category. I mean, obviously Tony. So actually, I mean Tony Pollard, great
I
season.
would
He
consider
caught
Tony
fire.
Pollard as an RB1 potentially next year.
It depends on how the leg is, but
Yeah,
I definitely think so. Him at the seventh spot was great. We also saw the rise of actually the return of Saquon Barkley being a top fantasy option, which
being dominant.
completely dominant, consistency score of 94 while averaging 22 points a game, which was fantastic.
No
And
joke.
I mean, then the funny thing is he did that with his highest point total being week one.
Yeah, yeah, really. That's crazy.
Yeah, so
But
that's gonna
I mean, he got out of the gate being dominant and continued
yeah,
all throughout the year.
and especially with no passing help. So that makes next year very interesting. Giants pay that man. I do
Yes.
want to bring up an interesting dilemma here. Let's talk about Aaron Jones, and he'll be our last person to talk about in this RB1 category. Um, Consistency grade of 88, but average 17 points per game. And honestly, I think this consistency score lies because
It
he was
is.
as up and down as you can make it
I,
out to be, which definitely makes me
yeah,
want to consider changing our consistency grade a little bit just to kind of how to kind of specify the up and
yeah.
down nature of it. But he just took a pay cut. Do you believe that that is the rise for AJ Dillon?
I don't think so. I don't think AJ Dillon was featured enough this year to be considered a viable option next year. Because I thought AJ Dillon would be phased into the starting role,
Last
like
year?
transition into the starting role this previous year. And seeing none of that happen, sorry,
No, you're
did it?
good. You're good.
Oh,
It's
okay, sorry.
beyond.
I
It's
my computer froze.
ooh that
But
skip.
yeah, so seeing none of that happen, it really it frustrated the crap out of me as somebody who bought into AJ Dillon last year, thinking that Aaron Jones would kind of be rolled back a little bit and then see him come back in full force and make a top
Yeah, and
10
we
running
had this
back.
debate during the
Yeah,
season. It's like how do you feel about AJ Dillon? No one really had a clue. And
it was so
it's
frustrating for me.
yeah, it's extremely frustrating. And I know like you had this issue because in trade talks with AJ Dillon, it's like I don't know
Yeah.
whether he's going to be good or not. I
Yeah.
and it just makes the pay cut situation all that weirder
Hmm.
because you're kind of saying he's out the door, but you don't give AJ Dillon the carries. So does that mean there's another running back in the picture? Like what's going to happen here? You're honestly, I still think they messed up by not having both of them out on the field at the same time.
Yeah.
I really believe that would have caused problems and it would have given at least not force your receivers out so early.
Hmm.
Let's go on to running back two category here. And that list is going to be Najee Harris, Miles Sanders, Leonard Fournette, Kenneth Walker, Alvin Kamara, Travis Etienne, James Conner, Raheem Mostert, Ezekiel Elliott, Antonio Gibson, David Montgomery, and one Damian Pierce.
Okay. Okay. A honorable mention for this running back too, uh Brees Hall.
Yes.
because
Yeah, let's
he had the numbers,
to warrant.
honestly,
Yeah,
to warrant a fringe RB1
he.
lock, but he didn't play enough games
I
because he
think
got
Brees
injured.
Hall's numbers are insane if you really look at it.
Yeah,
His lowest point total, if I'm not mistaken, was like 10 point, like I don't, or 7 points. I don't fully remember off the top of my head, but it was not that bad of a floor. And then his highs were so high, the 34 point game, 34
let's
point
see.
game.
Yeah, he had 10 points his first game.
Yeah, so you're talking a 10 point floor, so he's not fully killing you. It stings, but it's not fully killing you like some of the other players here, Devin Singletary. Um, but yeah, Brees Hall averaged 19 points a game.
I could see him being a fringe RB1 and being in the top 10 potentially by the end of next year if he comes back strong and healthy. Now I
See,
don't know because he is coming off of the leg injury. So uh, I think he'll still be in the early 20s, maybe late teens by the end of
I
the
would
year.
go and say late teens because I think you'll get the volume.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, I think you're going to have to wait, especially for you being the Brees Hall owner, is going to have to wait till year three to really see the fruits of your labors with Brees Hall as the top dog in that running back room.
Yeah.
I
And
do,
I'm
yeah.
looking forward to it though.
Oh yeah, and I think based on his stats here, Michael Carter, we have him listed as running back 42 on the year. In 16 games, scored 147 points. In 7 games, Brees Hall scored 137. If that doesn't tell
Yeah.
you the not absurdity, but like there is a level between Michael
Yes.
Carter and Brees Hall, without a doubt. And it was
For
about a
sure.
10 point difference per game, which is even crazier to imagine.
Hmm.
I do want to talk about Damian Pierce because his consistency grade is pretty high. However, he definitely killed you a couple weeks for a few weeks, and then didn't really play all that much da- during the playoff run. So I would the only reason I bring this up is that I would give a lot of pause to Damian Pierce next year because I think if anything, what this year has showed is that he may not be able to carry a full workload,
Yep.
which would mean getting someone else to kind of eat into those reps. And that terrifies me.
And yeah, I don't think he'll be able to keep up what he did last year because he struggled. He struggled a lot. And he's not even 1,000 yard rusher. And he only played 13 games though, but he struggled.
Yeah,
So I I honestly think they could bring in somebody from this draft to help him out, at the very least for passing downs and
yeah,
keep him as a not a workhorse, a you know short yardage punch it in guy.
yeah.
So
It may get to the point where he may be more touchdown dependent, and I
yeah,
don't know whether I want to play that game with Damian
I mean he
Pierce.
was touchdown dependent this year.
You know what's
So
funny? He only scored 5 total touchdowns this year.
and that was his downside.
Yep.
So
I mean, let's see who
unfortunately,
else in this. I
um,
think
oh, I was gonna say I'd like to add in one. Did you say Isaiah Pacheco?
I have not, but do you think he's running back to territory
I
next
think
year?
he's low end RB2 because he's was fairly consistent when he was out on the field playing and he was getting the reps, like, and I'm talking like 40% plus. He was averaging 14, 14 to 15 points a
Yeah,
game,
yeah, technically on our
which is
list
pretty
we have him
decent.
averaging 11 points, but during his starting run, it was definitely
Yeah.
within the 14 to 16 range. I
Yeah.
think really right around where Damian Pierce is where I can see Isaiah Pacheco
Yeah.
next year.
Yep. I
Um,
agree.
I think this tier can be defined by people who will not be in this tier again. And I
Yeah,
bring up Fournette, Kamara, especially. I would even say Ezekiel Elliott. Yep. Raheem Mostert, potentially, and I think James Conner as well, since he's not in the Cliff scheme anymore. I think we're
yeah.
going to see a lot of turnover in this RB2 category.
I believe so too. Um, I have a question for you. How do you feel about Travis Etienne?
Okay, so Travis Etienne, consistency score of 94, but he really kind of just caught fire later into the year. I
Well,
think I
oh, go
think
ahead.
we're thinking top 10 status. I think he's like in that later stage, like 7 to 10 range.
Hmm.
Just because Ramondre, I don't know what's going to happen there. I think Aaron Jones takes a nosedive. Dalvin Cook, I think could stay in RB2 category because I do think there's a small suspicion he stays. Tony
Hmm.
Pollard, unfortunately, will be out because I don't. He may not start the year healthy. Nick Chubb's probably going to be out of this list just because of the Deshaun Watson there, and Derrick Henry with all the turnover will be out. So I think
Yeah,
that sneaks ETN. Kenneth Walker will go up in there. I also think Najee Harris may go back up into the top 10.
I think so too. I think that that is a definite possibility. Him and JT. I
Yep,
think.
which JT, for
Mhm.
as bad as that year was, if you drafted him, he ended up being RB 34. He averaged in his 11 games 17 points a game, surprisingly. Um, his consistency score is 100, but it's because when he played, he was the guy.
Yeah,
And now you're really hoping with Shane Steichen, who was a big architect of how they ran the ball at Philly, that they can get something going with Jonathan Taylor. And I think they can. It's just there's definitely going to have to be more pieces
mhm.
around him for sure. Um, I mean, let's kind of talk about who's going to be leaving this list, who we feel. I
Who's going to be
mean,
dropping out of what? Say dropping out of the top 20 or
let's go
dropping
top
out of
20. Let's go top 20 because I think Kamara is an obvious one because most likely a suspension
yeah
is coming. I think
Fournette.
Dave Fournette for sure. I think David Montgomery has a good chance of leaving.
Yep. Jamal
Uh,
Williams is not going to have the production, like you said.
Mozart and Connor.
Miles Miles Sanders.
Okay, how do we feel about Miles Sanders? Do you think he goes? He stays?
I think he leaves,
Where does
and
he
that's
go though?
why I don't know. I don't. I honestly don't know, but I don't
Yeah,
think they want him around anymore.
you know what would raise the alarm for fantasy
What?
is if he's RB2 in Indy.
Ooh, that would actually work out for him.
I think it will. He'll never
Take some of
hit.
the weight off of JT.
Yeah, if here's what I will say, and I'm willing to put my flag in the ground on this one. If Miles Sanders leaves Philly, you better be drafting Kenny Gainwell as high as you can.
Yes. Well,
I would say fourth round. I
I
would
don't
say
think
fourth round. If
Gainwell. If that's the case, if they get rid of Miles Sanders, Philly is definitely 100% going running back in the draft. They are going for a running back,
oh yeah,
and
for sure, they kind of have to.
they would be a top candidate for Bijan.
I don't think Bijan falls in them. Which actually, let's talk
I
about that
think they
now.
have a top pick,
Oh, you're right. They do because they have the Saints
but
pick. They have
I don't know if Bijan would they would pick up Bijan that early though.
no, I don't think so. But more importantly, I think they may look towards I mean corners a possibility, like a Christian Gonzalez there, even with Bradbury and Slay. Um I don't think linebacker that team is man, that team is really solid. If they wanted to go Bijan, they could. I could see them trading down at this point.
Yeah,
Unless you wanted to
I
go tight end, but you already have Goddard, who's is still in his prime for at least 3 to 4 more years.
yeah.
The only place I could think of is maybe going D end, but they have
Yeah,
the
because they
depth for
are.
there.
Yeah, they're losing their D end.
Yeah, they're gonna be older, and then Chauncey Gardner will be their slot guy, and then you'll just need probably a safety
Yeah, so they have the number 10 pick.
if they
They have the
man
they have the number
they
10 pick and then the 30th pick.
yeah
Yeah.
the 30th pick.
Because there's not a which one? Miami isn't isn't picking a first round
No,
this
because they
year.
had it forfeited
Yeah.
because of the Brian Flores situation.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. But I could see them dropping Sanders and picking up a
yeah,
rookie
Bijan, and
back.
then just resetting the whole rookie contract because they have to be cheap somewhere. Because
Exactly.
Hertz will be in the last year of his rookie deal, and
Yep.
because he was
And
a
he'll need
second
to get
round
paid.
pick, he doesn't have the 5th year option. So I definitely see that's a possibility where they may need to save some cap, honestly.
That is a definite possibility. And it
Yeah.
would be wise for them to do that instead of forking out RB1 money to Miles Sanders when they don't
Yep.
really I don't know if they believe in
And
him.
as good as Miles Sanders has been, I don't know if he would get RB1 money. So that's
Yeah.
where I was like, Indy may be a good choice to stick with your familiarity.
Yeah.
But man, the Rams make sense. And there's a lot of other teams that make sense too. I mean,
Hmm. Now, I'd like to bring up a couple more names.
let's do it.
Let's talk James Conner.
Yep.
I don't think uh, Conner is going to be. It, how many years are left on his contract?
He has two more, but I think it's technically one more. But I don't
Oh,
think it was that big of a contract. To me,
okay.
the issue in Arizona is I need to know who the offensive coordinator is.
Hmm.
And this is also knowing you're probably not going to have Kyler for the beginning of the year.
Yeah, yeah, because he is. Yeah, he's coming off of the injury. Oh, that'll be rough.
Yeah, that he'll be.
Another name, Raheem Mostert. He
Yeah, no.
no. So
Yeah.
those are Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert were two that are kind of big question marks for me. I have them on my team, and I'm tempted to give them away as a pair, but that may be that's another potential landing spot for a big running back this year.
To me, I
So,
mean that Miles Sanders makes sense over there, but he doesn't have any familiarity with the Shanahan coaching tree. So that's where I don't know. I mean, I think David Montgomery could be a possibility there, but I
yeah,
also do think that Miami wants speed, speed, and more speed. Just because that's how McDaniel and all them love the running backs. So that's where it's. I think Miles Sanders might be your best bet. Maybe if any,
potentially, potentially.
potentially.
Well, that's just honestly, that's a wait and see, especially after the draft, see
Actually,
what
you know who would
Miami
be
does.
perfect? You know who would be perfect for that scheme?
Well,
Dalvin Cook.
see,
Yeah,
there you go.
it's just does Miami even have enough draft picks left to make that? Though I do see maybe you go Jeff Wilson and
Hey,
Raheem Mostert for Dalvin Cook.
well, I mean, I don't know if they do that, but they are looking for defensive talent. So they give up one of their corners for Dalvin Cook and maybe a little bit of draft compensation.
I mean, I actually would not be surprised since Brian Flores is the DC. He was literally with that team 2, 3 years
Yep.
ago, so that's very possible. So I wanted to actually bring up the teas I brought up last, literally a few minutes ago, and let's talk about Bijan.
Yes. Yeah.
I
Bijan.
think we need to talk about Detroit as a possible landing spot for Bijan Robinson.
That
And the
is
only reason I say
that is
that
a
is
definite
look
possibility.
at the Andre Swift stats. I could not be more shocked.
Well, and there's been a lot of rumors. that they're done with him. They're done with Swift.
I think it's just
They don't
injury. He just misses too much, honestly.
see, but I heard it was just other things. Like yes, his
That's
injuries were an issue, but I also heard that, it might not be just injuries. It may be a locker room issue, maybe other things. So I don't know. There's just a lot of question marks, and this has been we've been saying
yeah,
this entire year that there's just a massive question mark covering DeAndre Swift,
yeah,
and we don't know what's going on with him and the team. So
yeah.
I don't know.
Honestly, especially with Swift, he started off the year so good, gets hurt, and then everything changes from there.
Yeah.
Like, this is where I want to tell people, especially Dynasty owners, for 14 games, DeAndre Swift didn't get, he got under 100 carries for the season
Yep.
for a run heavy team, under 100 carries. And I think
Yep.
that's why Jamal Williams had such a big role. So if they wanted to keep Swift personally, they would be drafting Bijan Robinson being the bell cow guy, and then Swift is kind of your home run hitter. What Detroit has
Hmm.
found out is that Swift can't be the home run hitter. I mean, no, Swift can't be the bell cow. He can be a home run hitter, but you have to use him sparingly just to keep him around. And that's where we
Yeah.
go. And I think that's the unfortunate part. So Ryan, you came out with highway robbery with how that has
For real
devolved
though.
for 1 year. Like if we look at his stats right now, and I'm just gonna read them off real quick. 99 carries for 542 yards, 5.747 yards a carry. Not too
Yep.
shabby, but that's for 14 games.
Yeah.
And we're looking
And
at
this is the trade that Josh is talking about for those of you listening. I traded DeAndre Swift for Naeem Hines, Tony Pollard, last year's number 1 overall pick, and a second round pick this year.
which that first round pick became Brees Hall. So you
So
so
I got Tony Pollard and Brees Hall.
so you got RB5 and a would have been fringe RB1 for a dude who he will never hit RB1 status. I feel pretty confident in saying that.
Again, yeah.
I'll say
Oh,
for
and no,
career.
he
I
never
think
has.
for
Yeah.
career, this might be it. And then maybe a fringe RB2 if things go well. But look, 99 carries, he had 5 touchdowns. He had 70 targets this year, which is not too bad. But
That's honestly a surprise.
yeah, well, they had to use him somehow that didn't get him killed. So that's why I'm telling you, if I'm the Lions, you have the cap space, you have a lot of young players on the rookie contract. Do you swing for Josh Jacobs? Do you swing for Dalvin?
Mm,
Not probably not Dalvin Cook. I don't think the Vikings would be that crazy. Well, granted, T.J. Hawkinson. But
maybe.
do you swing for? I don't know. As I'm looking through the list, like I mean, Josh Jacobs is one that comes to mind. David Montgomery comes to mind as well,
Yep.
and or Bijan. Like that.
That's
That's
pretty
really
much
what.
it.
Yeah, that's really what's going through my head right now. Is I definitely think there's going to be another running back for the Detroit
Hmm.
Lions. David
So
Montgomery is going to
yeah.
be gone as I think will be gone as well. I personally see Carolina as a potential option. Um, but
See, I don't know because the head coach of Carolina just came out today and said he wanted Dante Foreman back. So
it's
Dante
it's
Foreman may still be the RB1 there
it's
next
not
year.
so much. I mean, Deontay Foreman, that's fine because I mean he's finally beating the Achilles curse, which that makes me happy. My big issue is Juba Hubbard, and
Yeah,
and
yeah.
that's where it's like, ooh, you do need to upgrade that. Whether that's a Tajay Spears in the draft or you go and look at Devin Singletary, honestly, because he's going to be a free agent this year.
Hmm.
So yeah, I
Yeah.
mean David
Yeah, you
Montgomery
could
could
pick up
also be
Singletary.
a possibility as well. Antonio Gibson, so he did fall off the face of the not the face of the earth, but he did drop
Pretty
12
much.
spots to the 22nd spot, which honestly not as bad. This is where I'm really interested to see how Eric Bieniemy uses him in Washington, largely because what ended up happening, which was really weird, and while we were all abandoning ship and I was criticizing the heck out of Scott Turner, they use Brian Robinson as the bell cow as for your basic running plays, and then they were able that for some reason that freed up Antonio Gibson to be used more as a complete weapon as he should have been. Now, as far as for me, my one question is why did it take another player to get to that point? But that's a whole nother episode.
It's bad
But
coaching.
we now have at least evidence that Antonio Gibson can do both.
He can. He
And
can.
and if Bieniemy is as good as we think he is, dare I say Antonio Gibson's fringe RB1 potentially.
I don't think so.
You don't think he goes to 12? Because
I
I think
don't think
12
he
is
goes.
impossible. Like
I
12
I
would be his
think
best.
yeah, I think that is having a fantastic year for him. But I don't think that's going to happen.
You think he's going to be right around where he is right now?
No, no, no. I think he's going to be higher up on the list. Maybe mid 20s. Well, I'm sorry, not mid 20s. Mid
Mid-teens?
teens. Yeah. But
I
I
see.
don't think he's going to be much higher than this because
I see. I see.
I do think that Brian Robinson is going to take those goal line and he's going to take more of the rushing work from Antonio Gibson.
Yeah, I could totally see that. Yeah, that's the one thing where like I'm seeing Antonio Gibson 149 carries this year. That's a massive decrease from last year, but
Yeah.
definitely an uptick 58 targets. So that's where that also gives me just JD McKissick
Yeah,
is
because that's not
is
bad.
he on his way is out? Is he on his way out? And then let's see how the dynamic of Brian Robinson and Antonio Gibson is. It's very reminiscent of Pacheco and McKinnon.
Hmm. Speaking of McKinnon, that man was a beast this year.
Oh, I
Absolute
so what
beast.
I think what's hilarious is that I mean I think Beast is okay to say because he literally won people championships, but his I mean his dominance was just in the playoffs. So that's where he hit. I mean
Yeah.
that's where he hit 37 points. That's why his consistency grade is actually really high. But for the most part, not that it was very down and up to where it's like I wouldn't trust that or try to use that as a barometer of things to come next year.
Oh yeah. For sure. And I don't think he's going to get used like he did last year. I think other people are going to step in because he won a Super Bowl. I don't know if Jerick McKinnon is going to be on that team. I don't know. He may have a little juice left in him, but
I
I don't
definitely
know.
think there may be a replacement coming for Kansas City. I'm just not sure who that
Hmm.
person will be. Um, I think we'd be remiss, and just because Ethan's here doesn't mean our Falcons talk cease to exist either. Let's talk about Tyler Algier. He's the running back 28.
I think he's going to
I
suck next year. He's going to drop
really,
off the
oh,
face of the map. And Tyler Algier, who? No, that was just for Ethan. No,
bust.
I think he's gonna do pretty good. Yeah, he's not gonna bust. I think he's gonna do well. Yes, he was 1,000 yard rusher, as Ethan likes to point out. He was 1,000 yard rusher, and I just don't think there's no passing work for him. There was almost nothing to speak of,
But I would
and
also say with the passing work that that was more of a problem from because of
mhm,
Mariota.
yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I get that. I get that. And he didn't he started out really being a tandem and then he emerged later on in the year. So I know that's like, a late bit of a late start, but I'm also concerned with touchdowns, and it may you get another quarterback in there, you may end up changing things. Obviously, things change year to year, and I think he will more than likely be another 1,000 yard rusher next year. I I I think that's definitely in the cards for him, but I don't know. Ethan seems to be touting him as the next like savior for
If
the
there's any,
Falcons.
I would say though, out of this list, if there's anyone to completely shock the world, it's going to be Algier.
Mhm. Yeah.
And I largely think that is because I think he will take the reps away from Cordero Patterson. I think
Mhm.
Atlanta will have to find another person for that. I mean,
Yes.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Cordero Patterson I think might be done, but with Algier, so you're going to have Kyle Pitts. We'll see what happens at wide receiver two. You have Drake London. If everyone is on the field at the same time, which unfortunately we've just not had that yet,
Yeah.
and especially for Ethan's sake. But I definitely think they're going to rely on Algier quite a bit next year
Mhm.
until Ritter gets fully comfortable.
They're a very young team, and
Very
they
young.
have a lot of potential. A lot of potential. I want to see that on the field. And honestly, we just have not seen it. With Mariota doing Mariota things last year, we weren't able to see much of it. I think like Ethan preached last year, I think he hindered a lot of the development of the team, keeping him out there. So once you get Pitts back, you get London in full stride, you get Algier out there, you get Ritter, who may or may not be a superstar. That's still, we haven't seen hardly anything from him, but I think you see enough of a sample size. I think they could be a very good potential playoff team next year
Yeah,
if the stars align for them.
especially with the NFC South.
Yeah,
That's for
exactly.
sure. Man, I mean, I there's really not many people I want to talk about after on this list. I mean, Brian Robinson will be in play, Khalil Herbert, I think for sure. If we think
Rash-
Montgomery
oh,
leaves, Rashad
Rashad
White,
White.
definitely. This is the crazy thing I want to ask. Who was the best rookie running back this year?
Oh my gosh. Oh, you know what? I'd have to say Kenneth Walker.
Yeah, even though
Kenneth
Brees Hall
Walker.
was flashier, I
I
definitely
think,
think Kenneth
yeah,
Walker was the more surprising.
if Brees Hall was healthy, he would have been number one. But since he got injured, he didn't get, you know, I don't, he didn't get the playing time that Kenneth Walker did out on that field. So Kenneth Walker is the number one this year.
Yeah. And I mean, we haven't even brought up, but say if Devin Singletary does leave Buffalo, James Cook gets very interesting.
Yes. And I am so bummed that I could not make a trade happen for James Cook. I tried.
I'll be
I
honest with
tried
you.
so hard last year.
As a dynasty owner, I am tempted right now. I am very tempted.
Yeah. I
Just
really tried last year in the off season. It was almost right after the draft. I talked with Tyler, who, for those listening, he's one of the guys in our league. But I talked with Tyler, and he was like, "No, man, I think I'm gonna hold on to him. He's got a lot of potential." And I'm like, "I know, that's why I want him.
well, I
Like,
mean,
I will trade it.
if
I
I'm
will
right,
trade
doesn't
everything
Tyler
for
have
him."
Kamara?
I think so.
So I look, he may be seeing the writing on the wall when it comes to Kamara.
Yeah, he's also got Josh Jacobs though.
Also potentially writing on the wall. We have no idea at the moment.
Yeah, that's why I got rid of
So yeah, I mean,
him.
Rashad
Oh
White's
man.
definitely one to look out for. Besides that, really nothing much at the bottom of the list. Besides J.K. Dobbins, I mean, he'll be 1 year removed from the ACL injury. With the Todd Monken offense, could be very interesting. Except that's all I really have to say because I don't know what else to say about any Ravens player until this Lamar Jackson issue is resolved.
Yeah, yeah, it's just all a big question mark.
Yeah.
And apparently Lamar is asking for
Yeah.
more guaranteed money than Deshaun Watson's getting this year,
Yep.
which is already a record
Yeah.
for the most guaranteed money in a single year.
I'm not
So,
surprised that he's saying that. And it sounds like Lamar is willing to go down the Kirk Cousins route. Sir, that is a risky game to play. And we'll see if it works. I would love it to be resolved, but I think it's going to take another QB to sign a contract to see how his stance is affected. Because I mean, the
yeah.
next QBs in line for a contract are Hurts, Herbert, Burrow.
Well, and the free agency right now is Carr,
Yep, and that's it.
Carr, and potentially Aaron Rodgers. But I
Yeah,
don't think he's going to sign a new contract. He
no,
might,
because Aaron
but
Rodgers would have to get traded based on how that
yeah,
contract's established. But even
yeah,
with Lamar, most likely it'll be a tag and trade. There's not a reality where I see the Ravens letting him go free.
yeah, because he's worth too much.
Yeah,
They can get a lot from
worth
him.
absolutely too much. And speaking of being worth too much, I want to go back to the running backs here, and I want to see who do you think changes teams? Because I think there's quite a few. And I kind of want to just go down and just kind of just rapid fire on the names. Out of the top two running back tiers, maybe the top two and a half, who do you think changes teams?
Um, there's potential for Dalvin Cook. There is Miles Sanders, potentially Leonard Fournette. I think he stays on for another year though.
Yeah,
Um, Kamara might get might be cut,
I don't
just flat out cut.
I don't know cut based on the contract.
Maybe with uh, but with what he did, they might not want to touch him.
They might
So,
not, but it depends on what the suspension is. That
uh,
will be the for sure
yeah,
thing.
there
Uh,
is James Conner. I
yep.
think Ezekiel Elliott stays in Dallas. He's the
Yeah.
golden boy, and
Well,
they put out a press release like yesterday or the day before saying he's still got a little juice left in him.
well,
So
it's because that contract's kind of screwed.
yeah,
I don't know. I think they have to
but
mess with the contract to get him to be able to trade for him this year, but I don't
mhm.
think they'll do that.
but potentially Swift and Devin Singletary. I think those are the names that
Yep,
come to
I
mind
think those are
for me.
now out of those teams, who would you be most excited to see go to a new team?
Dalvin Cook.
I am going to say Miles Sanders, just because
Really?
it's because in a weird way we don't know who Miles Sanders is. Because he was good his
Uh,
first year, good his
uh,
fourth year, second and third were kind of marred by really odd stuff happening.
yeah.
So I think he's the one that's like, ooh, based on potential, because I really don't know what we're dealing with. I would look towards Miles Sanders.
Okay. I
Dalvin
could buy
Cook, I
that.
think, might be scheme specific.
Hmm. I think that'd be interesting. It'd
I
be
will
interesting seeing him go somewhere else.
I will tell you the weird one. I have no idea why I just thought about it. I wonder if Swift is a possibility to Kansas City if they need to replace Jarek McKinnon.
Ooh. See, but if Swift goes there, I think he's going to take over Pacheco's job. If if
But
he shows off the flashiness and the skill that he did in Detroit, then a definite possibility.
I mean, I would agree with you if I didn't let this man ruin my fantasy season 2 years in a row with injuries, and that's where I think Pacheco is going to be. Um, definitely, I think Pacheco still stays at the top guy because I think they like him all that much.
I
Um,
think
s-
they like him, but I think he'll end up being a punch it in guy.
yeah, I think it's very possible. So let's go out of here. Based on what you saw from last year, which rookie do you think will crack the top five first?
Ooh, okay. It's kind of between three: Kenneth Walker, Travis Etienne,
Well, oh yeah, you know what? Let's count
or Brees
ETN
Hall.
because technically last year
Brees
was his
Hall.
first year. So
Yeah. Yeah, because I would consider him because I mean he didn't even get to play it down his first year.
yeah,
This is this would be his rookie year.
yeah, I see ETN. I think Kenneth Walker. No, actually, I'm not. Yeah, I'm gonna stick with ET. I'm gonna say ETN or Algier because I do see
Really?
I see the positive regression for Algier when it comes to touchdowns. And if he gets
So you don't
any
think
more amount of yards,
Brees
here's
Hall
why I
gets
don't
it?
think Brees
Oh,
Hall. Brees
yeah,
Hall
because of
is
the
the
injury.
ACL, and if there's anything
Yeah,
I've learned from Dobbins and Gus Edwards is that it takes a full year from the injury
yeah,
before you get back. So Brees
that's
Hall
true.
would be a person I am super excited about in year three rather than
Yeah.
year two.
So, okay, let me ask you this. Um, this is somebody who we haven't really talked about at all tonight. Um, Javonte Williams,
He's another on my I am pretty nervous how that goes.
because depending on where the Broncos go with it, you know, they could keep what's his name? Latavius Murray.
Latavius, I
They
think it's
could
very
keep
possible.
Latavius there as a filler while
Actually,
while while Javante gets healthy and gets
actually,
into a
I'll
rhythm.
be honest with you. I think that's almost a given. I just thought about it.
Yeah.
Sean Payton.
Yeah.
The connection's there. I keep Latavius there for the moment. Granted,
Yeah.
he may not survive a year. They do have Tyler Beatty and a couple other people, but yeah, I think Latavius is definitely going to be noticeable next year, especially in the beginning.
Yeah.
If he's brought back on. Otherwise, David Montgomery makes sense.
I don't know if they'll pick him up because I don't think they want to pay a contract for him.
So Montgomery is the one that I think. Okay, actually, let's start off with this. Name the person who is going to get a big free agent deal out of these running backs.
Out of the running backs?
Yeah, out of the running backs that we said is going to be on new teams, who gets the biggest contract?
Oh. Oh. Man, I don't know.
Because to me,
Probably Miles Sanders because I mean Dalvin Cook is past his prime. He's not a young
to,
buck anymore. He's not going to get big money. He's going to go there as a veteran, as a placeholder for somebody else that's coming in a couple of years. So, I mean, Miles Sanders could get decent money, especially with what he did this year and that he's proven he can be an RB1.
to me,
But
Josh Jacobs gets the most money, and I think
I
Miles
don't,
Sanders and Montgomery get the prove it deals.
I think so. But Miles Sanders could get decent money. Josh Jacobs is, I think he's going to stay with,
Yeah, okay.
uh, I think he's going to stay in Las Vegas. I don't think with how he without he how he like went through this year and just said, "You want to get rid of me? You're gonna you're really like pretty much challenging them. Like you're really wanting to get rid of me. Like this is who I am. This is what I can do, and you want to get rid of me." And that was him saying, I'm here and I want to stay. And this is why. So I think I think he stays in Las Vegas. I think they're going to be willing to pay him. If he runs next year like he did this year, they'd be more than happy to pay him.
Yep. Yep. I
But
definitely
I
think they
think he's
will.
going to get a big contract.
Yep. All right. I'm cool with that. I'm cool with that. I definitely think Miles Sanders and Montgomery get the prove it deals. And I also think I can see a James Conner trade happening.
Yeah.
Largely because I think Arizona would like to draft one.
Mm-hmm.
I'm trying to think. I think there is a shot Fournette could get traded because Tampa is currently in a really bad cap situation. Um, and then I'm trying to think who else just on the list. I mean Swift for sure could be gone. I just don't know where.
I think Fournette stays. Um, see, I'm kind of on the fence about it. I really think Fournette stays at least another year. But
I could see it,
I
but maybe
don't think
he's
he sees
RB
the field
two.
a lot. Yeah,
I was
I
about to
don't
say,
think he sees the field a lot. I think Rashad um is taking over. So
all
that's
right.
my 2 cents on that.
Outside, okay, so that's essentially that was that was our small free agent little discussion there. Now let's scrape the bottom of the barrel here. Name two running backs out of the top 24 that will be in the top 24 by this time next year.
That aren't in the top 24 or
That
will
are not
and
in the
will
top
be
24 right now that will be in the top 24 next year.
JT,
Yep.
solid lock on that one. And ooh, oh, this is difficult.
It's very
Algier.
difficult.
Algier. I think for sure JT and Algier.
Okay.
I think I think Foreman makes a peek into the top 24 if he continues as a starting running back in Carolina. I think Latavius Murray might if it takes a while for
Javante
Javante
to
to
get
come back.
back.
I think Jeff Wilson might if he
Jeff
plays like
especially.
he used to or like he did it at the beginning of his time in Miami.
I definitely think Jeff.
Pacheco might.
Yep,
See,
Pacheco.
it's just so hard because
Yeah,
I'm going down this list and I see a lot of potential.
this is the first time where the reason why I bring this question up is that I think for the running back position, and to me, it's almost become the receiver position a little bit. You have to go past the top 24 to look
Yeah,
at because you're going to find a really good talent probably through 40, to be honest with you.
yeah. But see, but it's either really good talent with not much opportunity
Yeah.
or a lot of opportunity and not as much talent.
Yeah,
So
that's true.
like Cordero Patterson. He's don't get me wrong, he's talented, but
But
he had a
he's
lot of
yeah,
opportunity and he's getting up there. He's getting old. He's I remember when he was a Viking and that was like oh my gosh, 8
decades
years
ago.
ago. It was almost a decade ago. And he it was a whole different position for him. But I think, he's got a lot of opportunity, but not as much talent for that opportunity. So, like you said, I think you see a lot of talent down here past 24, but maybe not the opportunity that you're looking for. Because
Yeah,
that's also a big factor. Like they may have a lot of skill, but if they're not given the ball, they're not going to do anything with it.
exactly.
Like Cook, like James Cook, heck of a lot of talent, but he wasn't given the ball very much this year until near the end of the year. So, a lot of talent, not a lot of opportunity. But hopefully he gets that opportunity this upcoming year.
And speaking of James Cook, that's my answer to get up in the top 24.
Okay. All
I
right.
it because I think your answers are really good bets. Jonathan Taylor and Algier definitely. If I
Oh,
had to
I got
go,
another one.
what's your other one?
Khalil Herbert.
Ooh, see, I don't know what Chicago does. Chicago
Yeah,
is the one team that I have no idea what to do. All I know is Fields top five, and I would even say, and this is going to be for our wide receiver episode, but I think Chase Claypool's a name to look at.
potentially.
But as far as
Potentially.
running backs, James Cook, J.K. Dobbins are the first two that came to mind that are not the
Yeah.
expected ones. And then I would even throw uh I'm gonna throw AJ Dillon in there.
All right.
And the only reason why is say you move on from Rodgers, right? That immediately shifts the balance between running the ball versus throwing.
Yeah.
But even then, I think the Packers will readjust, realizing they relied too much on the pass and relied on Rodgers too much.
Mm-hmm.
Because I do think that's fair to say that Rodgers is one of the league's best quarterbacks. I still think you relied on him too much, and I think teams baited them into that. So
Yeah.
that's where I really do think AJ Dillon's kind of their fix it solution. Is just will they actually hit the button and say, "All right, AJ Dillon, it's time to go get your 3 yards and continue the drive."
Yeah.
Man, so let's see. I mean, we technically talked about
I mean, that's pretty
bus,
much it.
kind of some sleepers.
Yeah.
So any is there any lock that you feel confident about right now?
Yes.
And who is it?
Oh, see, I want to say it. I want to say it, but I don't want to say it because I don't want to jinx him. Um, I want to say Austin Eckler, but he's coming up into the what is it? Last
Yeah,
guaranteed year of his contract.
yeah, it's the last guaranteed year.
And I think he produces. And in that offense, he does a real good job. I don't think he's gonna get 127 targets next year.
I'm happy
Just
you
because I think they're going to get a wide receiver in the draft. That is like number one for them.
I'm so happy
So
you brought up Austin Eckler
yeah,
because there's a actually that's something that it kind of all hit me all at once as you're saying his name. So we had the throw the panic alarm with Austin Eckler at the beginning of the year, then week 3 changes everything.
yeah,
However, it wasn't like his play on the field that was just like wait for it, he's going to be good. He was just being like he just wasn't playing, he wasn't getting the opportunity.
yeah,
And to me, that's a coaching thing. And that terrifies me more than the player not being good. Because then you can't just rely on volume play. You just rely on the fact it's like, oh, this is bad. And
yeah,
it can't be done. So I think Eckler does fall down a bit. I think he's still top 10 because it's going to be, oh, hey, Austin Eckler's still really good. But he's one that I am nervous about when it comes to next year. And it was why you and I talked about it's like, hey, like let's try because Ethan's season was down the
yeah.
drain. It's like let's try again Eckler, and then we all looked at contract details and went, oh, I don't know if I want to do this.
Yeah. It would be a yeah. Yeah, it would be something that I'm like, okay, this is a if I'm going for the championship this year, I'm buying into him
Yeah,
because he's a 1 year rental,
yeah,
maybe 2 year. So, yeah.
a definite 1 year rental, and so I'm very interested, and because the last thing we talk about the new offensive coordinator, Kellen
Yeah.
Moore. And I want to know how that factors. Does he get 127 targets? Does he even get
See,
five
I
throws?
think I think we should save that for when we get into our new head our new coaches
We
episode.
we definitely should. And I mean, I don't
Because
think there's
we
much
could
else.
definitely talk about that.
Yeah. I
There's a lot to talk about with new coaches.
There's definitely a lot to talk about new coaches, but as far as the running backs, I
There's not
think that's
much.
I think that's about it, my friend.
Yeah.
So,
So thank you all for listening in. This is our second installment of our Statathon. We're doing this for 4 weeks where we go through quarterback, running backs, wide receivers, tight ends, um, pretty much all the skill positions, and just go over stats. So thank you guys for sitting in for our running backs episode. Feel free to like and subscribe on our YouTube channel and follow us on all of our social media sites at Last Place FP. That's Twitter, YouTube, Instagram, all of them. We're all there. So just like and subscribe on here. And we'll see you guys next week.
see you tomorrow, not tomorrow, but see you next week.
See you tomorrow.
I wish. And always remember, Ethan, I got you. Sometimes you're right. And
Oh my
sometimes you
God.
could be extra right, like Ryan.
I like that one. I like that one.
Yeah, yeah, throw a remix in every now and then.
Yeah,
All right.
you gotta compliment your co-host sometime.
Yeah. Have a good one, everybody, and we will see y'all very soon talking about wide receivers. And we got a lot to talk about them, so we got a lot of studying up to do. All right. Have a good one, everybody.
Y'all are jokers.